The National Emergency Management Agency has received 167 more stranded Nigerians from Libya, bringing the total number of Nigerians brought back to the country in the last 4 days to 532. The returnees who were assisted back to Nigeria by the International Organization for Migration and the European Union include 145 adult males.
It's very evident that the pronouncement made by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, is playing out. Of late, we received over 2,000 returnees in the last 6 weeks. The numbers are increasing by day. A lot of talks are going up there, and it's yielding fruits. As NEMA, our role is to ensure that they are well received.
3 of the returnees had medical cases and were promptly given treatment by doctors and paramedics. Some of the returnees recount their experience.
We're trying to go to Italy. As they say, somebody deceived us to the road. But getting to there, they kept us in a camp. One day, the Libya police came and started pursuing everybody to leave, and that's how they brought us to the deportation camp. So where we find ourselves right now in Nigeria.
What's your advice?
Well, before I left, I would say to the world, for who cares to hear, because I was once told not to go, but I didn't believe it. But it's not a good advice for someone to go to Libya.
The Libyan people, they are not friendly at all, most especially with the Nigerians. The way they treat us is very, very bad. And most of our people are dying there. Even as we are here now, there are some people that are still suffering there. It's just that they have no opportunity to air their view or talk of their experience.
As part of plans to reduce air traffic congestion in the face of adverse weather associated with this time of the year, the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency says it has installed new very high-frequency communication radios across the country. The agency adds that it's also installing instrument landing system and distance measuring equipment at Lagos and Kano airports. The managing director of NEMA, Captain Fola Akinkotu, noted that the agency recognizes that apart from the adverse weather associated with this season, there is also a huge demand for air traffic services and has taken steps to strengthen its technical and operational capacity. The Kaduna State government has plans to increase the route network from the Kaduna International Airport. This is coming from an official of the state government. The official noted that the state government is willing to assist Nigerian carriers who are investing in the aviation industry.
And on 24th of this month, is flying from Kaduna, another big happiness to have a flight from Kaduna to any other destination. I must feel very proud. It is unfortunate if people are still looking at the country downwards. We are more than that.
The second prototype of China's large passenger jet C919 completed its maiden flight in Shanghai. This brings the country closer to becoming a global aviation powerhouse. The captain for the trial flight, Wu Xin, said the jet was in excellent condition and the flight could get a full score. The flight, which lasted around 2 hours, tested the performance of the C919 major systems and equipment, such as taking off and landing, navigation and communication, speed acceleration and deceleration. With a standard range of 4,075 kilometers, the C919 jet is comparable to the updated Airbus 320 and Boeing's new generation 737.
Pilots remain the most potent workforce for an airline until when the down told at Irish Ryanair, the airline had to backtrack on its traditional role of not recognizing unions as representatives of the pilots' union in Ireland and Portugal suspended plans to strike before Christmas. Ireland's Impact Trade Union and Portugal's SPAC announced the cancellation of 24-hour strikes due to take place on Wednesday, December the 20th, after Ryanair agreed to recognize the unions as the representatives of pilots in their two countries. Investors took fright at a potentially major change to the business model at Europe's largest low-cost carrier, with Ryanair shares tumbling as much as 9% to €14.9. With this offer, Chief Executive Michael O'Leary is reversing a policy at the heart of the ultra-low-cost model he developed to turn a small Irish regional airline into Europe's biggest by passenger numbers. He was once quoted as saying he would rather cut off his own hand than recognize unions.
I think it would have been dreadful for Ryanair, to be quite honest, and not just in terms of reputational damage, but also Christmas is such an important period as well for these airlines. So I think the fact that they've managed to avoid strike action, I think, is extremely important. It also takes the company on to a new phase because, quite simply, obviously this is a budget airline, so they have cost-saving measures in place across the company. So as far as investors are concerned, you look at the share price today, it's down again. As far as investors are concerned, they're going to be wondering how this is going to ultimately hit the bottom line because, while they've avoided what could have been quite a disastrous strike around the Christmas period, this has left them open now to the bottom line being shrunk.
Pilots mobilized after Ryanair in September announced the cancellation of around 20,000 flights, which it blamed on the lack of standby pilots due to a failure in its rostering following a rule change by Irish regulators. Groups complain of a toxic work atmosphere and have said Ryanair is facing a major staffing shortage, but management has repeatedly denied this and says it offers some of the best pay and conditions in the sector. Management was quick to reassure investors that there will be no major changes to the airline's business model based on filling seats irrespective of how low the fare, and that it might be easier to attract pilots once the unions were recognized. But analysts said the move introduced significant uncertainty in terms of both staff cost and possible future disruption by emboldened employees. The chief executive Michael O'Leary's refusal to recognize the unions was at the heart of the ultra-low-cost model he developed to turn a small Irish regional airline into Europe's largest carrier by passenger numbers.
Impact that it has on the bottom line, when everything in the airline business is about those very fine margins, then anything that's going to eat into that very fine margin ultimately have a negative impact on the bottom line is going to be damaging. Like you say, it's been already quite a tough year for Ryanair, so the fact that there's something else that could potentially eat into the bottom line, despite the fact that this strike action has been avoided, is ultimately a negative.
The move comes after pilots in several countries threatened strike action in the busy run-up to Christmas. The Irish carrier said it would hold talks with the unions in Ireland, Britain, Germany, Italy, Spain and Portugal to recognize them as long as they established a committee made up solely of Ryanair pilots.
This is where we wind down on the program. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Bukola Joe Oketunbi and wishing you a Merry Christmas.